Hi there, mathematicians. Today we're going to be doing a review of learning target number 1, which is adding and subtracting fractions that have different denominators. All right, let's get started with addition. Here's our first addition example. 1/9 plus 2/3. Now, we have a problem here because we know that a very important rule for fractions is that the fractions must have the same denominator, the number on the bottom. I can see right away that I have ninths and thirds. I cannot add these fractions together until they have the same denominator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my 2/3, and I need to turn those thirds into ninths so that I can add my fractions together. 2/3 would be equivalent to how many ninths? That's the question. How many ninths? To find an equivalent fraction, as you know, we must multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number. So 3 times what would get me 9? 3 times 3 would get me 9. So if I multiply 3 times 3, I must also multiply the 2 times 3. 2 times 3 would get me 6 ninths. So now I know that 2/3 is equivalent to 6 ninths. Now I'm going to go back to my original problem and rewrite it using my equivalent fractions. Now I have 1/9 plus 6 ninths. Because I found an equivalent fraction, I turned my 2/3 into 6 ninths. Now that my fractions have a common or a same denominator, now I can add them. 1/9 plus 6 ninths would be 7 ninths. As always, I need to check if my answer is in simplest form. Looking at 7 ninths, there's nothing that I can divide both 7 and 9 by to reduce or simplify this fraction. So 7 ninths is my answer. Here's another addition problem. Now I have 2/3 plus 2/12. Right away I can see I am stuck because my denominators are different, so I cannot add. I must find common or same denominators before I can add. So let's try to see if we can turn our 2/3 into 12ths. 2/3 would be equal to how many 12ths? I'm trying to find an equivalent fraction. So I need to ask myself what to multiply by. And remember, multiplying to find an equivalent fraction, I must multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number. 3 times what would get me 12? 3 times 4. If I multiply the denominator by 4, I must also multiply my numerator by 4. 2 times 4 is 8. So now I have found an equivalent fraction. 2/3 is the same as 8/12. They're equivalent. So now I can rewrite my addition sentence with my common denominators. 2/3 plus 2/12 is the same as, I know that these two fractions are the same, 8/12 plus 2/12. 8 plus 2 is 10. 10/12. My very last step, as always, is to simplify. I have 10/12 as my answer. I need to ask myself, is there a number that both 10 and 12 can be divided by? Yes. Both 10 and 12 can be divided by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. Can I divide any further? No. So that's my final answer. 2/3 plus 2/12 is equal to 5/6. That's it. Now let's try a subtraction. My first subtraction problem is 5/6 minus 1/2. It's the same as addition. In order to subtract, I must have common or same denominators. I have a 6 and a 2. These are not the same, so I need to stop and find an equivalent fraction. So, same as addition. Let's see, can I turn 1/2 into 6 to find an equivalent fraction? What do I need to multiply by? 2 times what would get me to 6? 2 times 3. If I do something to my denominator, I must also do it to my numerator to find an equivalent fraction. 3 times 1 is 3. So now I know that 1/2 is equivalent to 3/6. They're the same. Now I can go ahead and rewrite my fraction with my common denominators. So now it's 5/6 minus 3/6, since 1/2 and 3/6 are the same. 5 minus 3 is 2. The denominator stays the same. Last but not least, can I simplify? My answer is 2/6. Yes, I can simplify because I can divide the numerator and denominator both by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So now I know that 5/6 minus 1/2 is simplified to 1/3. Let's do one more subtraction example. Here's my subtraction problem. I have 1 whole minus 7/12 minus 1/4. I have a lot going on here, but first of all, the first thing I notice is that I can't subtract 12ths and 4ths. I must start by finding a common or same denominator here. So I need to try to turn my 4ths into 12ths. So let's do that first, and then we'll go back and deal with that 1 whole. So I have 1/4, and I want to turn that into 12ths. So I need to ask myself, 4 times what would get me 12? 4 times 3 would get me to 12. Got to do the same to the numerator. 1 times 3 is 3. So now I know that 1/4 is equivalent to 3/12. Okay, so I'm almost there. I now have equivalent fractions for my 7/12 and my 4th. But what about this whole? Well, I need to write 1 whole in 12ths. How am I going to do that? 1 whole equals how many 12ths? Well, if I have a whole, that must mean I have all of the 12ths. I have all 12 of the 12ths. So 1 whole is equal to 12 12ths. Okay, now I have all my equivalent fractions. I can rewrite my subtraction equation. So instead of 1 whole, I'm going to write 12 12ths. So 12 12ths minus 7 12ths minus, and then instead of 1/4, remember I'm going to write 3 12ths because I found that that's equivalent. 3 12ths. Now I need to subtract. 12 minus, so let's do this in pieces. So first I have 12 minus 7. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. That would give me 5 12ths, and I still need to subtract that 3 12ths. 5 12ths minus 3 12ths. 5 minus 3 is 2 12ths. Last but not least, can I simplify? Yes, I can. I can divide my numerator and denominator by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So there's my simplified answer, 1/6. So just as a reminder, I started up here with 1 whole minus 7/12 minus 1/4. First, I turned my 1/4 into twelfths right here. Then I took my whole and I also turned it into twelfths right here. Then I rewrote my equation so that all of the denominators were the same, all twelfths. Now that my denominators were the same, I can subtract. And I got 2/12, which I then simplified to 1/6. That's it.